Good morning. Today's date is June 19th, 2019. My name is Tyrone Bellinger. Today I will be conducting an interview with David Fields for the Veterans History Project in partnership with the Dalton Council on Aging. This interview is being conducted by the Dalton Community Television Station in Dalton, Massachusetts. Morning, Dave.
Good morning, Ty.
Would you please state your full name and spell your last name, please?
Okay, my name is David William Fields, Sr., Fields.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Where do you presently live?
I live in Pittsfield, Mass.
What is your date of birth and where were you born?
My date of birth, May 2nd, 1948, and I was born in Pittsfield.
Pittsfield. Did you grow up and go to school here?
Yes, I did. I lived on the west side, actually West Pittsfield. There were two different sides. There was the west side and the West Pittsfield side, and I went to school in Pittsfield.
What school? Pittsfield High?
Pittsfield High School. I graduated
High.
from Pittsfield High.
Okay. Was Taconic there at the time?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't built
It was
yet.
just one high school.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember when Taconic.
Catholic school it was, but it was
St. Joe, yeah.
St. Joe.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had two sisters and a brother.
What did your dad do for a living?
He was a parts manager for an auto dealer
Here in Pittsfield?
here in Pittsfield. Yeah.
Was he a veteran?
Yes, World War II in the Navy.
Did you graduate from high school? I think you already said that you did graduate.
1966. Yes.
1966. God, I feel old.
So do I.
Yeah, well, we are now.
Yeah.
What did you do after you finished high school?
I got a job at an insurance company. I had a job with the insurance company before I graduated, and I spent the following year working and playing music. I was in a drum and bugle corps most of my youth, and I did that the year after I graduated. And then
So you were fairly busy, I mean, besides working a full-time job. And
yes, I was
because
busy.
if I can remember, the drum and bugle corps were very regimented.
Yes.
Very
yes.
busy. You know, they were busy all the time.
Right. There were 7 of them in Pittsfield then.
Did you travel besides Pittsfield? Did you travel with the drum and bugle corps?
Oh, yes, extensively. We went as far as Cleveland, Ohio, Washington, D.C.
Really?
Yeah, Boston. We traveled all over.
And how did you do? By bus?
Bus, yeah.
That had to be a nice experience for you.
It was a great youth, yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I still do.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted because I didn't want to get drafted.
Right.
So I thought I'd have a better chance.
You had a choice of your service at the time?
Yes.
Branch?
I joined the Army.
You joined the Army, okay. How old were you when you entered the service?
18. I was
18.
18 years old.
What were your dates of service?
October 67 until October 1970.
Wow, you're good. Why did you choose the branch of the service that you did?
My intention was to join an Army band. That was, and I picked the Army. I know all branches have musical units, but I picked the Army.
You're hoping to continue your career in the
music. Yeah, that was my intention.
Where were you sent for basic training?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Fort Dix?
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe some of your basic training experiences?
Yes. At the very first day of basic training, I fractured my left foot. And
First day?
Very first day. And that was pretty traumatic. And so I hobbled around for 8 weeks. I wore out 2 pair of combat boots, dragging my foot.
Dragging you. So you wore out the toe or
The heel.
or the heel?
The heel.
Oh,
Wore it right
one.
off.
Wow.
No.
And no one really questioned you on it, or
Well, the first morning you go out, you're in formation, and they're yelling and screaming at you. And the DI said, the drill instructor said, how many of you crybabies want to go on sick call the first day? And I was standing in the back with my boot in my hand because my foot was well swollen.
yeah.
And so I went around. I thought he asked me to come around, and he said, "What are you doing out here? I didn't call you out here." So I was really making a mistake here. He said, "Get down and give me 10 push-ups." So I did, and then he realized my foot was, twice the size,
Yeah.
and the boot. So he gave me a break. He let me fall back in, and then they sent me to
Sick bay?
sick bay. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to get recycled. Recycling means you got to wait for the next group to come in, and I
Right.
would have spent 8 weeks recovering. But I pushed myself. I said that it wasn't broken, it was fractured, but it hurt.
Oh, I can imagine.
It was swollen, and I finally was able to get my boot on, and then I dragged it around. And they allowed me to do that, thinking I had the guts to want to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so-
you showed them that, hey,
Yeah.
you're not going to quit
I'm not going to quit. So
until you had to. Was it hard to adjust to the new military life?
Not really, because of drum corps. It's very regimented.
Right.
I had 7 years of that, dress right dress and all that stuff, and so it wasn't difficult. I understood it.
So you had marched before. Like,
I
did a lot of
knew how to
marching.
march. Yes,
Yeah.
I knew how, and you had to get used to the yelling and screaming, but I understood what they were doing,
Yeah.
so it wasn't that difficult.
Oh, okay. What type of training did you get in basic training, other than the drill?
We had to qualify with 2 weapons, the M14 and the M16. And then just the PT, you had to qualify with that
Physical?
training part
Yeah.
and pass a test. And that was about it.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Not by name, I remember them. There was one drill instructor we had a hard time with because he had a speech impediment and we couldn't understand him. And and it wasn't his fault, but we didn't know what he was saying, and he was
Yeah.
yelling and talking fast. So we had a hard time knowing what to do. We couldn't understand what he was saying.
Right.
So
Yeah, that had to be tough because especially with the yelling and screaming
yeah,
on top of it.
we're all terrified about the screaming.
Can you describe how you felt the day you graduated from basic training, knowing you had successfully finished?
I was pretty proud to have been able to do it, and I mentioned that they give you so much confidence. I felt I could eat nails. That's how tough I thought I had
Right.
become. It wasn't true, but that's how I felt.
Right. Psychologically, you were.
Psychologically, I was tough.
Did you get a furlough after basic training?
Yes, I finished basic 2 weeks before Christmas. So they shut down the training for the holidays. At least at Dick's they did.
Yeah.
And they let us go home.
Oh, that was nice for the holidays.
Yeah, for the holidays.
Christmas and New Year's.
Christmas and New Year's, yes.
What was it like coming home in uniform from basic training? How did you feel?
Pretty proud to wear the uniform. It was hectic at that time because it was Christmas time,
Yeah.
and that's about all. I just remember just wanting to get home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So now you've been home for a couple of weeks or whatever. Now you're going to your first duty station.
Right.
Where was that?
My first duty station, and it actually was a school, was in Fort Lee, Virginia. and it was a quartermaster school, and I had 2 courses. It was an electronics course and a communications course I took. And I reported on New Year's Day, 1968, to Fort Lee, Virginia.
How long was the the base, or not the basic, but how long were you in training there?
Until April.
April.
4 months.
And after April.
Well, it was in the training ended in April, but we had received our orders. What was going to happen next? Interesting, at that time, it was a new program, and there were 50 guys in the class. And every time we would complete a course, the electronics course, we were accelerated in rank. So I was never a PFC. I was an E4 after 4 weeks. And then we had another class, and I didn't have time to sew the E4 patches on because we were given E5 after the next one. Quick. So we thought that was pretty interesting. We have rank now. E5 is equivalent to a sergeant.
Right.
3-stripe sergeant. But we didn't realize what that was all about. Halfway through the schooling, I realized they had a band at Fort Lee. So that really interested me. So I asked to get an audition. And it was granted. They let me do it. Because it was really laid back and not like basic training. Now it's laid back pretty good.
You're in the military now.
You're in the military now. So I got the interview, or the audition for the band. I passed it. And a couple of days later, they came back and they said, we'd love to have you here, but you've got orders for Vietnam. And that's what the whole schooling was about, because they needed middle management. And
in Vietnam?
In Vietnam. And so that's where we all 50 of us went to Vietnam.
All 50 of you?
All 50.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. There were other classes, some of them were sent to Germany, some to Korea, but our class was Vietnam.
Wow.
So I had to put that on the back burner.
So now you're off to Vietnam.
I am.
Do you remember when you landed in Vietnam?
Oh, yes, I do. Very clearly. Yes. It was April 20th.
Right. Was there any particular incident when you landed that day? Was it the day?
Well, it was...
Or that night?
That night, yeah. It was, yes. It was a 22-hour flight, so we didn't get very much, you try and sleep on the airplane. We get there, and they process... I don't remember what time of the day it was. It was just hot. That's all I remember, how hot it was. But we finally got our paperwork all done and whatever we have to do, and now they're assigning us to where we're going to be there. And they loaded us into a 3/4-ton truck. A few of us, it wasn't a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I was the last one on the truck, and now it's dark. And I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet.
Right.
So I believe the driver of the truck said, I'm done with this. So he just dropped me off anywhere. Well, he dropped me off at a construction, it wasn't construction, it was a heavy equipment place.
Right.
Truck drivers, they were all truck drivers, because all 18-wheeler guys. So I thought that's where I was supposed to be. I didn't know. He just wanted to go back to his barracks.
Yeah.
So I got there, and it's dark. I go through the unit supply. I get a set of sheets, a blanket, which I'm surely not going to use.
I was just going to say, you really didn't need a blanket.
And a pillow. And I walked in, they had a bed for me, and the mattress was all rolled up. And right at that moment, there's a rocket attack.
Welcome to Vietnam.
Welcome to Vietnam. So I just threw everything on the bed, and I ran with everybody else. I just did what they did. So that was pretty scary, you know.
Oh, I can, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my introduction that the first day, you know,
Yeah.
a rocket attack.
Wow.
So
I just can't imagine. And knowing rockets, I mean, you probably didn't even have experience before then, but there's nothing you can defend yourself.
no, you can't. You just go for cover.
Yeah, and just
Just
hope
cover, and it's just noisy, loud, and scary.
that, yeah. Now, what was the unit, you know, Long Binh? You were at Long Binh now.
I was on Long Binh. It was a very large Army base, probably the largest one at the time there. It was called the 506th Field Depot, and I worked in a maintenance part of that. And I think there were 30,000 troops on Long Binh at the time.
Really?
30,000, yeah. That was at night. During the day, it was probably another 10,000 because they had a deal with Saigon. They brought the local nationals in to work with us.
Oh, okay.
So there was another 10,000 during the day there.
Wow.
So it's big,
I
real
didn't
big.
realize it was that big.
It was real big. I never saw all of it
Yeah.
because of what I did, but
So then your job, you were in supply?
it was a type of supply. They called it tech supply. We could get anything anybody needed in 24 hours if we didn't have it. I think Amazon fashioned themselves after the Army's
Really?
their supply. I think so. I don't know that for sure, but we had quite a system of ordering stuff and requisitioning. That was what it was called.
That was in 1968 though, right?
68, yes.
I can imagine there was a lot of stuff over there by then. I know earlier on there wasn't that much,
Right,
you know, supplies and so on and so forth.
right.
Now, you have some photographs here.
Yes.
I don't know if yeah, this is still Long Binh.
We're still in Long Binh, yes.
Do you want to talk about these?
I can.
I mean,
yes.
I love the stories of these photographs, and I would hope that you.
Okay. The first one is I went on a patrol. They asked us to go on just one patrol. And I was the radio man for the first lieutenant. And I didn't know how to use the radio. He did. The CO knew how to use it.
Right.
I just carried it.
Oh,
I carried it for him. Weighed about 25 pounds. He didn't want to carry it.
well, he was a higher ranking.
Yeah,
he was
he's
an
a
officer.
first lieutenant. Yeah,
okay.
First lieutenant. So that was an experience. We went out and past the perimeter, and we were in the bush all day.
So that was your first experience outside the compound?
Outside the compound, yeah.
On a patrol?
On a patrol. And we were just, looking. We hope we didn't find anybody, but we were looking for anything that might have been, that somebody had been there.
Right.
That's all we did.
So it was just one day, though, you just went
Just
out?
that one day, yeah, one day. That's all I did.
So that was a picture.
Yeah, and this is as a radio man.
That's the radio man.
And some unusual things that happened while we were there. That they called us out on a detail. That's they brought us all out of the warehouse where we were outside, and they had a detail that we were going to brush our teeth. And I said, no kidding, we're going to brush. They had to either show us or make sure that we're brushing our teeth. So we were all issued a toothbrush, a little cup of water, and a small little tube of toothpaste, and we all brushed our teeth in unison, all together. So I couldn't pass that up. I had to take a picture of it. I said, no one will ever believe that I'm brushing my teeth
In Vietnam?
in Vietnam in unison with the whole company, all at the same time. So that was that one very unusual thing. Another very unusual thing was they had a soft serve ice cream truck that the Vietnamese, because during the day they came on the post, or on the Long Binh, and they were very entrepreneur, and they had a soft serve ice cream truck, like Dairy Queen. And we couldn't believe it, so we had to go out and buy one. But it was so hot that as soon as he handed it to you, the ice cream ran right down your arm. It melted almost instantly. You had to.
Well, I can imagine it, the 90 degrees plus.
Yeah. Oh, it was and humid. So, but it was fun to do. This is unbelievable. No one would. I took a picture of it. So.
Yeah.
And it didn't taste very good, but it was cold, and that was pretty good.
Oh yeah, anything cold over there, whether it tasted good or not, it was.
Right.
Now, you were the 90th Replacement Battalion. You mentioned you were a bus driver. Oh yeah, I want to go back just a little bit from when we talked before about your driving experience.
And yes. Now, because I had rank, I was an E5, so our first sergeant, his duty was to assign guard duty, for instance, and they needed. My position was called the commander of relief. So in other words, I'm in charge of the guys that are on the. We had 5 bunkers. I think there were 5 of them on the perimeter that we had to maintain every night, and they were probably the 5 of them were probably 200 yards. You know, the first one to here, there's 200 yards of area.
Okay, and you got 2 in between, or 3 in between?
Well, they're separated probably by 50 yards or so, or something like that. And each one of them had 2 guys in it. So I had to get them. First, I had to get them from where they're all on duty, bring them into Long Binh, and we had to eat. This is at 4 o'clock. But in order to do that, I was told go over to the motor pool and get a deuce and a half. And you got to that's not requisitioning it, but so I told the lieutenant or the first sergeant, I said, because here's the rub, I didn't know how to drive, and I wasn't going to tell them that I didn't know how, because I'm supposed to know how. Right. I should have known how. So I told him, I said, Sergeant, I don't have a license. Oh, he says, don't worry about that. Just go over to the motor pool, they'll give you one. So okay. So I did that. I went over there, and now I got to think on my feet. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? Who am I going to? How's this going to happen?
Right.
How can I get a driving lesson that quick? So I thought on my feet, and I talked to the guys that were on guard duty that I was going to be taken out there, and I asked one of them if he wouldn't mind driving the truck for me. And he wanted to know why. I says, because I don't know how. So I said, all right, but what's going to happen? What'll happen when I have to go in the bunker? I'm the last guy in the truck. You're going to have to take it from there. I said, all right, well, let's get this part done first. So I get to the last guy, and so now I get in the truck, and he gives me this quick lesson on how to drive a 5-speed, 2.5-ton 10-wheeler. The first time I've ever driven anything.
Right.
So he said, just put it in first gear, let the clutch out, and step on the gas. So I said, okay, and I did. So he didn't tell me anything else. So I must have had $4,000 on the tachometer, and then we're going about parade speed. You know, I'm not moving very fast. Right. So they're yelling out, shift it, shift it, shift it. You know, I cleaned that up a little bit, but
yeah.
So I thought, okay, so I just did what, and I put it in another gear, and I got a little faster, and then I just did it what he said. So that's how I learned how to drive right there, and I did it, and I got the thing back to where we had. There's a reactionary bunker away from and so I had to go back there. So I couldn't have been more proud.
I was just going to say, you were probably proud of yourself.
Look at me. 2.5-ton 10-wheeler.
You ride home to Mom, hey, I learned how to drive.
I told my father, I cussed my father out for not letting me drive a 57 Chevy, I'll tell you that.
57 Chevy, I don't blame her for that.
Yeah, no, I don't either. So that was my first experience in driving. And then I I got some other help.
Yeah.
They
You
helped
mentioned
me.
also when we talked before about driving a bus.
Yes, our unit or our company, we had get anything we wanted to get, and there was a Japanese bus company just down the road from where we were, and they had brand new 1968 Japanese buses, the diesel pusher
Yeah.
from behind, and they needed repair parts, and we had them. So we talked them into, I didn't do it, but our company talked them into giving us a bus. And we'll give you everything you need. Anything you need, we'll take care of all your
Yeah.
buses, but give us a bus.
Oh,
So that we rode in style back and forth instead of in a deuce and a half.
yeah, you got the bus.
We got a bus. So I became the bus driver. When the guy who was doing it, he rotated out,
Yeah.
and I was an E5. I was, I had the rank, and now I knew how. So so I drove the bus.
You're proud of sitting
Oh, now
up there.
I'm a veteran now. Right?
All right, so you got all this, you spent all this, you were a year in Vietnam?
Yes.
In Long Binh?
Long been, yeah, a year.
So now, April of '69,
Mm-hmm.
you're heading home? Did you,
I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
I have a 1 month leave, so I'm going to use the whole thing at once and just go home. And I had orders from my next duty station because I still had a year and a half to go.
after you come back from Vietnam?
After Vietnam, I was only halfway through
All right.
my tour. So they gave me my orders, and it was another overseas assignment. I was going to Germany, and I was pretty upset about that. I said, I don't want to. I've had enough of this overseas stuff. I want to be stationed in the States.
Right, right.
That's how I felt. So I sucked it up, and I just didn't do anything about that. And today we're ready to leave. Now we're going to the 93 replacement station. That's where you come in and where you leave from, in the south.
Right.
And so we're at the airport, and there's probably 200 of us. And here comes the plane. We called them Freedom Birds.
Freedom, I was just going to say, yeah.
And this was my Freedom Bird. I'm out of here now. We're going back to the world,
Right.
That's what we called it. And I hear on the PA system, I hear Spec 5 Fields and another guy. Please report to the information counter. I said, what is this all about? He says, sorry to tell you, you've been bumped from this flight because of 2 emergency leaves. You guys are going to have to go on the next flight up, which isn't until tomorrow. So I didn't know how to even feel. I was numb, just numb.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
So they offered us, they had barracks there where we could stay, the Air Force.
Yeah.
And they had a really nice mess hall, and I think it was air conditioned even. They really had it. Air Force had it pretty good.
Well, I was going to say Air Force.
Yeah. So they offered that to it. I said, no, thank you. I'm going to sit right here on this bench until tomorrow morning. And I slept on that bench, and I waited right there. I think I got something to eat, but I was furious.
You didn't want to lose your spot on the next
I'm
plane.
going to be first, I said. So I went out the next day,
Good.
whatever time that was. And that's quite an experience. And maybe you can relate to this. When you get on the plane, it wasn't like a 747. It was a big stretch jet, they called them. They held, the seats are real close together. They compact the seats. So there's probably 200 people on the plane, I'm guessing. And as soon as we take off, it went up like a rocket. There's no noise abatement over there. You just go, it's full throttle. And the plane just erupted.
Oh, yeah, the cheers.
Screaming and yelling, cheering, jumping on each other. It's amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, we made it out.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And I know, on our flight, half an hour into the flight, I would say 90% of the people were sound asleep.
Sounds, oh yes, yeah, they were. Yeah, that's right.
Just relax and just.
That's right.
But wow, just being held an extra day, I just can't imagine.
It wasn't pleasant.
So now you're home.
Now I'm home.
You get 30 days.
I got
leave?
a 30-day leave, and I'm toying with the idea that I've got to figure out how to not to go back overseas. I really don't want to. So, when we talked before, the story. I remembered more of the story. I went to get some help, and I talked to. I'm having can't remember what I'm.
Senior moment.
A senior moment here, yes. But I saw political help. I went to political help, and so I talked to this guy, and he told me that he could arrange it, but he said all your orders will be stamped political interference. He says, I'm going to tell you in advance. He says, that's not a good idea. He says, you shouldn't, the military does not like that.
If you had gone to a politician?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To get political interference.
Yeah.
So I said, I got enough, I don't want that. So he suggested, you could go to the Pentagon. I think he said it just jokingly. And I said, well, that's a pretty good idea. So I did. I went to the Pentagon. I don't know where I don't know. So about 2 weeks into being home, I got all dressed up in my Class A uniform.
Yeah.
My dad drove me down to Westover Air Force Base. I got a military hop. Didn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
To Andrews, I think that's what it is in D.C.
Yeah.
And I took a bus into the Pentagon. So I'm to the Department of the Army. I'm going. I don't know where I had the guts to do this. So now I'm in.
You got those guts from basic training.
I think so.
Because like you said, you could
I'll
chew
spit nails out. Yeah.
And
so now I'm in the Pentagon, and now I got to find the Department of the Army. That's a pretty big joint, the Pentagon.
The villain, yeah.
So I find it. So I go in and I tell him, and I call in an audience with a general, a 2-star general.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't even know there'd be anybody available. So I went in and I saluted him. He says, "What can I do for you, son?" And I said, "Sir, I'd like to amend my next duty station. I'd rather not go overseas again. I just came back from Vietnam." And he said, "What's the reason?" He says, "Well, I said I just don't want to go overseas again."
Right.
He says, "Let me tell you, son, that's not a very good reason." He was being nice to me. He said, "That's not a very good reason to not want to go overseas just because you don't want to."
A lot of people don't want to, probably. That's good.
So I thanked him and saluted him, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I tried.
But that took a lot of
guts.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, when I did go to Germany, it worked out pretty well for me, but that was the best part of my tour, actually, going to Germany. But I had to try. So
now, when you went to Germany, all right, after your 30 days and after your little experience in Washington, where did you end up in Germany?
I ended up in a tiny, it's a town called Fürth, F-U-R-T-H, and it's like a suburb of Nuremberg. They're actually kind of connected.
Yeah.
And there was an army base there, a maintenance company that was similar to what I was doing in Vietnam, but a lot smaller, tiny. In comparison, it was really small. So I worked there for probably 4 or 5 months, and they moved the whole thing into Nuremberg. Our whole unit, we had to move to Nuremberg. So now we're stationed in just outside of downtown Nuremberg. Years ago, it was a hospital, the German hospital, and the Army took it over, and they call it Merrill Barracks. That's what it's still called that, I think, if they're still there. But Germany, they call it the Südkaserne. It was huge, and the 2nd Armored Cav was stationed there, and that was their home base right there. And we were at one end of it, and they were at the other end.
You showed me a picture, and it was quite a complex.
It's really big. It's very, very big.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we worked in right out the window where I worked. I was doing accounting now. You could see the Colosseum, Nuremberg Colosseum. It was Hitler's. That was going to be his capital of the world right there. He was,
yeah.
And they never finished it. At that time, the Nuremberg Symphony was using it to rehearse in. That's where they rehearsed. But I could look out the window and see it. It was just down the road.
Wow.
And the room that I worked in, this is interesting, the room I worked in there is where Hitler ate his lunch and dinner when he went to Nuremberg. The room,
that's where he ate?
That's where he ate his meals.
I imagine he probably had an awful lot of conversations or whatever.
Everything, yeah.
The big wigs in there.
Mm-hmm. They had a streetcar system where, like the T in Boston, that kind of thing. And he made them. I used to go by there, and he made them put it underground at the Südkaserne, so he wouldn't have to listen to the noise of the wheels and that.
Really?
So it went underground there and then came back up down by the Colosseum. He didn't want to listen to the noise. It's interesting. A lot of interesting facts there.
Yeah.
And going back to Fürth, that's the hometown of Henry Kissinger. He was born in Fürth, and he left Germany when the Nazis took over. He escaped and came to the United States. But he was born there. That's where he was born. It's a small
history. You were in a lot of history over
there. A lot of history there. Fürth was probably the size of Lenox. A little bit bigger than that, but it was quaint like that. So
now you're in Merrill Barracks.
Yes, and working there, and I'm getting. Here's an interesting thing. In Germany, we were not allowed to talk about Vietnam. The military didn't let you talk about it.
Really?
So I had to keep all those feelings to those thoughts to myself. So I had to learn how to act like I'm now in Germany. We couldn't use the expressions, the words you learn, and they didn't want to hear it. You talk German over here now, so.
Right.
So I'm really getting disillusioned with what I'm doing. I'm not happy. I get insubordinate actually, and I wouldn't cut my hair. And so now I'm not military spec. So the CO said to me, he says, "Fields, if you don't get a haircut, you're going to have extra duty on the weekend." So that doesn't sound too bad. Because I wasn't going to do it, so I didn't, and he put me on duty for the weekend by myself.
Yeah.
I got to work, and this was a Saturday, and I'm by myself, and I hear music, and it's a marching band.
Yeah.
I can hear it, so I go outside, and the 2nd Armored Cav had a band, so I ran out there, and I'm listening to them, and I asked them, I said, "You guys need a drummer?" Because that's what I do. And they said, "Yeah, we do." So I talked to my CO, and I got an audition with the 2nd Armored Cav, the band, and I 1049 from the unit I was in to the 2nd Armored Cav, and now I'm in the band, and it's a personal band of the Command Sergeant Major of the 2nd Armored Cav. who happened to be from Springfield, Mass. So now he's a homeboy besides being
just
command
wow.
sergeant major.
Yeah.
And so it worked perfectly. So now I'm doing what I really wanted to do to start with.
Right.
And as a musical ambassador, sort of.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. So we've traveled all over Germany playing. That was our job. We just did that.
You finally got your military band.
That's what I wanted from
Yeah.
the beginning.
Took you a while to get it.
I was patient, and I jumped on the chance. So now I'm in the band.
So now you did play all over, but when we talked earlier, you mentioned something about an opening of a supermarket.
That was, yes, it was one of the 1969, or it might have been 1970 now. Germany had just introduced this supermarket technique of shopping, like Stop and Shop or Price Chopper.
Yeah.
They never had that before. They had small little
Mom and pop stores or whatever.
pop stores.
Yeah.
So they were trying this. This was a big deal to them. So they hired us to come and play at the opening of this grocery store. So we were marching up and down the aisles of the grocery store, which I thought was really strange, but it was just a cool thing to do.
Well, it was the first opening they ever had, so they probably
Yes,
didn't,
it was. And the Second Armored Cav band was very, very popular over there. We played in towns all over the place, and it's the founding of the town, and they would celebrate it like a small Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
And we were always invited to play. And we went to at the time of West Berlin. We played in West Berlin too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's quite an experience at the time, going through East Germany to get to West Berlin. And the train ride took 12 hours, and it's a distance like here to Springfield. Had to go from the border of West Germany through East Germany to Berlin. And they had to change trains, and the Russians were involved, and
A lot of security.
tremendous security. The train went about 12 miles an hour
Wow.
the whole way. That's why it took so long.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. We stayed at the CIA headquarters in Berlin when we were there.
Really?
They gave us their quarters.
So now you were overseas in Germany for almost a year, a little over a year,
18 months.
18 months. Wow. So now you're done. You did your grocery store.
I did a grocery store gig, and
But you go ahead.
Another interesting story. One of the details we had in playing, the Second Armored Cav had a baseball team, and they played at Soldiers Field, and that's where Hitler gave all his speeches. It's monstrous cement, a wall sort of thing, but then it's like the Green Monster, but it's cement.
Right.
And that's where the baseball team played. They had a game there, so we played at the game, and kind of like a 7-inning stretch, but it was more than that. We played it quite a bit, and at that time, besides the command sergeant major being in charge of everything, above him was a 2-star general, and it was. I didn't even know that this existed. It was George Patton IV. I didn't know there was a 2.
Right.
But there was a 4. And he was in charge of the Second Armored Cav. And he came over and he bought us all a beer, everybody in the band. So I thought that was pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, how many people can say George
John,
Patton bought him a beer?
Right.
Well,
Now, what was he, a 2-star at the time?
He was a 2-star at the time. Yeah.
Just getting a 2-star general, whether it's Patton or not, to buy you a beer.
It was pretty interesting. That's quite a story.
Yeah. Too bad you couldn't have gotten him to sign the mug or something.
Sign the mug, yeah. That would have been nice.
All right.
So now my tour is over in Germany.
Your tour is over.
So
you come back to the you're coming back to the States. Were you discharged right away?
Yes.
Where were you discharged from?
Fort Lee. Fort Dix. I'm sorry, Fort
okay.
Dix. I get confused how many times I went back and forth and from
Yeah.
where. It was Dix.
Do you have any memories of that day?
Yes. I left from exactly the same place I went in, and the difference it was as a 18-year-old scared to death.
Right.
Now I'm a seasoned veteran, and it felt very, very different. It was a different feel.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, it was strange. It was a strange feel.
You mentioned also when we talked before about the new guys. You were seeing the new guys coming in. Or the
Yes.
young guys.
Yeah, and feeling very sorry for them. They had no idea what they were in for.
Right. How did you feel coming home? Do you recall the day that you got home?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I was just glad to be back. Very glad to be back. I don't remember. There were 2 times coming home that.
Well, I was just gonna say that when we talked before, it was the first time you came home from Vietnam.
Yeah,
And how you felt.
that was a totally different feel.
Different feeling.
Yeah. There was a big party after, my family welcomed me home, and it was a big deal. And coming home from the military, it was after. We didn't have a party. I didn't want one. I was just glad to be back, but I wasn't. I just wanted to come back and
Right.
just blend in again, or I didn't know what to do really.
Right. That's my next question. Was it hard to adjust back to the civilian life?
It was at first, yeah. It was very hard. I tried to, like I say, blend in. I realized I had a lot of hidden or feelings that I kept, to myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was anger. There was a lot of anger there. So it was difficult to blend back in. I went back to work after a year. I didn't work for an entire year when I came home. I just laid low.
Yeah.
I did, I can't remember exactly the sequence of things. I did get a job. I got a job driving a school bus for one school season, just to have, because I knew how to drive a bus.
Right.
And by this time now, though, when looking back on it all, I don't know. My hair was down to here. I had the jungle fatigue jacket I wore all the time, so I looked very suspect. I thought. I didn't think so at the time, but now looking back,
You look back.
wow, why would anybody want to give me a job doing anything? So, and then I went back to where I had originally worked in an insurance company. That didn't last very long. Then I got a job with a friend of mine that I was playing music with again now that I'm home. And I worked for GE OP8. They were just designing the Bradley vehicle, the tank.
Yeah.
And GE was making the transmission, and another company in California was making the tank itself, the Bradley vehicle. And this, our job was to install the transmission in the tank, and it was designed not only to power it, but it steered it also. The transmission steered the tank, and it had a steering wheel instead of the levers like this. They went to a steering wheel.
That was the first time, and it was
The first experimental,
Yeah.
and little did I realize that was going to be used in the Gulf War. They were thinking that far ahead.
Really?
I believe
Wow.
that's my,
Yeah.
because that's what they used in the the Bradley vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that for a year. And then I met my wife while I was playing music, and she saved my life, actually. We've been married 45 years this Saturday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. You're a couple years ahead of me.
It's all right.
Now, in all this time, you were in a band. You were playing. You're playing now, not regular, but you were in a band that
When I came home from, yes,
Yeah.
it was pretty rare. I was playing all the time.
Oh, were you all
Yeah,
the time?
A lot. Yeah. Yep.
Did you take advantage of the GI Bill?
I did. I took a correspondence course in art. That's about all I did with it, though. I took a correspondence course, learned how to draw. I like to draw anyway,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to get.
I know you said you met your wife and you went to work, but who did you work for? You worked for, you said 38 years?
I worked for 38 years for a small manufacturing company. My wife Angela was friends with the owner of this place, and he gave me a shot. I didn't have any experience in doing anything, and he gave me an opportunity.
Yeah.
My wife set that up for me, so
that was nice.
She got me my first job. So it was in manufacturing for 38 years.
And you did marry and have a family?
Yes, we have three children.
Did you keep in touch with any of your buddies or attend any reunions?
No, I didn't. Not you're talking about the service.
Yeah.
No, there was one friend that I knew, and we went through basic training and AIT, where we got
Right.
the rank, and he went to Vietnam too, and we weren't in the same place. We didn't see each other there at all. And then he went to Germany too, and I did, and we ended up in the same unit. In
Oh,
Germany.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was the closest friend I had.
Yeah.
And then I joined the band, so now he's.
You
I
went
did see
one
him,
way and he went another?
He went another way, yeah.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
I joined the VFW when I first came home. My father was a member, and I thought that would be that's the right thing to do. But it didn't feel good to me, and I didn't keep up my dues, and
Yeah.
it just didn't fit. There was something about Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans that I started to see there was a difference.
Yeah, there was.
I felt it anyway. So I stopped, and then probably in 1983 or so was that when Chapter 65
Vietnam veterans.
Vietnam veterans started to blossom, and
Right.
It was an interesting experience to watch how it happened. It started off as rap groups.
Yeah.
And I was involved in that, and the first one was kind of frightening to me. It was in a church. I mentioned that, and it was in the basement of a church.
Yeah.
And I think Angela went with me. My wife went with me, and I walked into the church, and there's a sign that says, "Keep all weapons and knives. You're not allowed to bring them into the." I said, "Wait a minute, I'm not going down there." So I didn't get involved in that part of it. It just sounded just And then there was an ad in the paper that I think that's where I saw it. That there was if we wanted to talk about Vietnam, they're meeting at a school, and that's where I met John Ladd.
Yeah.
And And it blossomed from there. Just then the chapter started,
Right.
and that's what it is today.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and I got involved in that.
Helped you.
Yeah, it helped me. It helps. It helped tremendously to talk about and listen to other people talk on how they feel
Right.
and how they felt. Not everybody felt the same.
No.
Everyone had a different view of it. They were there at different times.
But what I always, at least even now, is most Vietnam veterans respect other Vietnam veterans' opinions.
Yes.
You know, there's no
Absolutely.
argument. You know, it's
Yeah.
something that, at least with myself.
Mm-hmm. I remember a guy, you know him too, is Tom LaRue.
Yeah.
He's passed him, but he said, if you even stepped off that plane and onto the ground there, you had something to say about it. Just
Right.
being there,
Right?
no matter what you did.
Do you feel that your service experience had a positive or negative effect on your life?
I think it had a positive effect, and I bounce back and forth with that. Sometimes I feel it was, it's not something I really even wanted to do.
Yeah.
Had there not been a war going on, I don't think I would have joined the military. I don't think I would have. I don't know what I would have done for sure,
Yeah,
but because of it happened. So, but what I learned there was you can't learn anywhere else.
Right.
You can't. I mean, respect, taking orders, doing, and
Yeah.
you learn a lot.
Right.
There's a lot that comes from there.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got the positive
Mm-hmm.
experience.
It was
Well, Dave, thank you very much
Thank you,
for your service, and
Thank you.
thank you very much for your story.
Thank you. I hope it's entertaining, and
It will be.
yeah, well, I hope so. Thank you.